We need to talk about Ryan Burl's shoes. His boots, spikes, sprigs. But chances are that before the other day you had no real idea of who Ryan Burl was. You may still not know. Zimbabwe cricket pretty much doesn't appear anywhere anymore. Pommy and Bangwer occasionally on commentary, the odd Henry Olonga mention, and Heat Street suspension for fixing and corruption. That's really what makes up most of Zimbabwe's current media. Sikandar Raza has probably appeared in your favourite league, or you've seen some of his better work for Zimbabwe. Blessing Murazabani is taking a lot of wickets while being really tall, so people tend to notice that. And Brendan Taylor is just coming to the end of a very, very good top-class career in the game, and quite luckily he no longer sleeps in strangers' cars. In contrast to all the six names above really, Ryan Burl is not a big name. He's a 27-year-old journeyman cricketer who has 46 internationals to his name. And yet, this one tweet about cricket spikes went completely viral. And of course, this tweet led to other things. But before we get there, just let me explain Ryan Burl a bit first. Burl, like many in the Zimbabwe team, went to a school well known for providing athletes and cricketers, and he got his big break about 4 or 5 years back, and he's represented Zimbabwe in all 3 formats. He's failed in his first 3 tests, making only 24 runs from 5 innings, but his first class numbers suggest that that's probably a little bit unfortunate. I think at the moment he has more of a white ball game to him, and basically he's a middle order left-hander and he can bowl some leg spin as well. This is a very handy combination for white ball cricket as it's currently played. He's not made many runs in the ODIs, but the few times he's bowled, he's taken a decent number of wickets. These numbers probably have him as a fairly solidly bits and pieces all-rounder in ODI cricket. But I think it's T20 he's more suited. I think he's a really interesting cricketer here. Burl is what some teams refer to as a 3-tool player. He's a fantastic fielder, a solid bat, and a handy bowler. This is where I first started paying attention to Burl. When I would go looking for leg spinners, his name would always be there, and the ability to bat left-handed in the middle order is a huge one for T20 teams. So the combination of those 2 skills with someone who is a plus in the field is really handy. It means that for quite some time he's been on my list as a good lower league T20 prospect. And I wasn't the only one who noticed him. After mashing up Bangladesh in a game, he was given a BPL contract, which for a fairly unknown Zimbabwe player is quite a big deal. From 4 games he struggled with the bat, but he took 4 wickets in 8 overs, an average of 12 with an economy rate of 6.12. For Burl, it remains his only major T20 experience, but it's a quality league to get an invite to, and he did well with the ball, struggled a bit with the bat, and he took an absolute stunner in the field. And just before I did this video, I found this in my records. I keep cards and information on many players, just in case a franchise needs to know about someone on the fly. And I must have made this maybe a couple of years ago now. You can see he was already on my radar as a really good player. But most importantly, there just aren't that many leg spinners in the world. In the last 3 years, Burl has bowled the 31st most leg spin in T20 cricket, and that's a lot. And on this list of players with over 400 balls of leg spin delivered, he's clearly in the top 8 in terms of batting, and probably higher again when you look at fielding. His overall numbers as a leg spinner hold up well. He's not a full-time leg spinner, but he does bowl a lot. And there are a few low usage guys down here, but here is Rashid Khan, and this is Adam Zampa, and this is Shahid Afridi. Now they weren't all bowling against some of the poorer batters that Burl was, but it shows that his leg spin, when used, has held up quite well. But let's focus on the batting, which traditionally has been his strongest suit. Burl has faced the 22nd most balls of a left-hander batting positions 4 to 7 in T20 cricket in the last 3 years. Yeah, that was kind of a bigger mouthful than I thought it was going to be. In fact, he's also in the top 100 list for this all time. Mostly this shows how few left-handers there are in these middle order slots, which means that anyone who can do that is worth a lot more. I think for his talent, he's actually underperformed with the bat, but he still gives you some flexibility. But more importantly, these are his shoes. And why do we know these are his shoes? Because he tweeted about them. This is his attempt at regluing his shoes because Zimbabwe cricket could not get him a pair of new sponsored boots. And so he tweeted out this picture because he was desperate for some help with a fairly important bit of kit for any professional player. And this is obviously why I'm really talking about Ryan Burl today. But I want you to note something he says in this tweet. We. He wasn't just talking about his shoes, but those of his fellow Zimbabwean team members. A test team is having to glue shoes together because they can't get enough new boots. This is a sad story, but one that worked out well for Burl and his teammates when Puma sent over all these shoes in a brilliant case of ambush marketing. It's a good story, no? Struggling international cricketer needs equipment to perform and companies come in to save the day. Win, win. Well, unless you were New Balance, who somehow failed to sort Burl out and now let a competitor completely steal their thunder. And also not if you are Zimbabwe Cricket, who now look like they don't actually look after their players. Which of course is true. They're a shambolic organisation, and they were rightly made to look foolish here. I find it hard, almost impossible, to believe that Burl tweeted this without complaining directly to many people in Zimbabwe cricket. This could have been fixed in-house, and it wasn't, and no one, least of all Burl, thought this tweet would probably go as viral as it did. But since then, another tweet has been shared a bit. It didn't go quite as viral as Burl's original, but journalist Adam Theophilakis sent this tweet and has been seen by quite a few people. And you can see here that he's suggesting that many inside Zimbabwe cricket are angry that Burl's tweet reflected bad on the organisation. Yeah, no shit. And that they might want to discipline Burl for it. As Theophilakis says, that would be a terrible move by Zimbabwe cricket. And if you're thinking, surely cricket boards can't be this vindictive. They can and they are. And we also have a second article from someone stating the same thing. C.S. Chiwanzar wrote a similar article based on things that he was hearing. Now it's possible that just by releasing this theme the board has had their say and made a point. But they might also fine him or even suspend him for what has happened, which will be public and we'll all be able to see that and react to it. But the real problem is if they shadow ban him. Sorry to sound a little bit like a right-wing social media member here, but the easiest way to punish him is by dropping him and pretending it's due to form. Looking at form, doing a deep dive of analysis, finding something odd and small and making it a much bigger thing, that's what we do on this channel. And I figured, why wait to see if Zimbabwe actually don't select him for another game? Let's do it now, so we've got it on record. Just in case. So let's look at his form. He actually played a test this year where he made a pair, but took 3 wickets. But 2 of those were when the game was pretty much gone. And he didn't play in Zimbabwe's next test. So I think it's fair to say that if he's missing the test team, it's just because he's currently not in the test team. His last ODI was against Ireland, and he opened the batting, oddly, and failed before taking the wicket of William Porterfield. That was in 2019 though, so he's currently not really a member of the ODI side either. He is in the Zimbabwe T20 team. He played all 3 of their most recent matches against Pakistan, and in his last game, he had none for 33 from 4 overs. The game before that, he took 2 for 21 with some handy names there, and that was defending only 118, and Zimbabwe did that after his wickets really helped. In a couple of games before that against Afghanistan, he made a 39 not out and a 40. So he's solidly in that side and playing well. As I said, he's a good T20 cricketer. Now, he's not their only spinner, nor is he even their only all-round spinner. They have Shaun Williams as their main spinner and also Sikandar Raza. However, they're both finger spinners, and their young leggy is Brandon Mavuta, who can also hit big, but kind of in the tail. And his leg spin is very hit or miss. They also have Tainatenda Mtambodzi, but he hasn't bowled in half of his last matches. Burl has bowled in all 10 of his last 10 matches, so they're certainly quite different on usage. Mavuta is just not ready yet, although shows a lot of promise. And Mtambodzi just doesn't bowl enough. There is no obvious replacement for Burl if you want a wrist spinner in this team. It should be said that I'm no expert on domestic T20 cricket in Zimbabwe, but I did have a bit of a look at their most recent T20 tournament, but I didn't see any rogue leggies tearing things up there. And Burl being a leggy is very important. Zimbabwe do have tons of quality finger spin options. So having that wrist spinner really does help their team. Also, as good a player as Sikandar Raza is, he's obviously had huge health problems over recent time. And while he has been cleared, no one's sure exactly when he'll be able to come back and also at what level he'll be able to come back at. But I would say that at his best he's a slightly better cricketer than Ryan Burl, and so is Shaun Williams, who's a really clever player. But the ability then to add another player who can bat and spin it in a different style is very handy to them. I don't know what the collective noun is for batters who can bowl a bit of spin, but Zimbabwe have a half turn of them in this side, and that's a strength of theirs. So Ryan Burl should definitely be in the Zimbabwe T20 team. If he's not picked for the next few T20 games, I think that it is definitely not cricket related. He has good form, he's obviously one of the better T20 players they have, he's part of their strength. It would just be odd if he wasn't in that team. And perhaps nothing will happen, maybe Zimbabwe cricket will just let this slide even if they are a bit upset. But of course they shouldn't let this slide. They should be taking this time to realise that the real problem isn't Burl making them look silly on Twitter, it's their players gluing boots together. And this isn't the first occasion of recent times where a Zimbabwean player has been representing their country with shoddy equipment. That CS piece I mentioned before tells the story of Brian Mudiyagama. Now if you haven't heard of Burl, you'll have no idea who I'm talking about here. But Mudiyagama played his first test as a concussion substitute. And when he came out to bat against the Sri Lankans, the team and Angelo Matthews noticed the state of Mudiyagama's gloves, which he did not think were worthy of an international cricketer. After the innings, Matthews actually gave him a new pair of gloves. So here you have an international cricketer using gloves that many amateurs would look down on. And that was someone who was sent out to represent his country by Zimbabwe cricket. Look, it's quite clear that Zimbabwe cricket clearly has bigger problems if their players can't get access to decent gloves or shoes. But if they do have bigger problems, any kind of penalty against Ryan Burl would be a huge mistake. Let Ryan enjoy his new kicks, while you start planning to make sure that no Zimbabwean cricketer ever has to go viral just to get equipment again.